Trash.
What do you mean by which card should this have been?
I think Garnet, Princess of Alexandria's ability should have been given to Yuna Grand Summoner.
Why?
So the whole point of Final Fantasy X, which is the game that Yuna is from, is you are a guardian escorting Yuna, who is a summoner, on her quest to defeat some giant evil that can only be defeated with the summons. So her whole ability set is summoning things. She's the only character in that game that can summon things.
Got it. So that would have been totally, like, on point.
Yeah, and a lot of the summons they picked are even from Final Fantasy X. Like, the summon Bahamut card is the Final Fantasy X Bahamut.
Oh, okay. Hey, everybody, this is Bad Goyfs, and we're bringing you a whole Final Fantasy breakdown on quite a few cards that we really love. And here we go. We've been having a discussion already. What are our other cards that we got there, Drakey boy?
I mean, there's a ton in this set that I'd love to talk about, but I'm just going to stick with some of the ones that I think are already being talked about or kind of like iconic for these games. So starting with Tifa, Martial Artist.
Ooh.
So she's from Final Fantasy VII. She's one of the main characters. And I mean, it's just a cool card. Like, Tifa's pretty iconic to the game in general. And she's always been a melee fighter, so giving her melee as a keyword is, I mean, I think it fits pretty well.
Seems to fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking at this card. I was like, this card is brutal. And I can already tell just by the price point that it's been set at pre-release card prices are all, notoriously way higher than normal. But given what what Tifa can do, I can see why she would garner such a huge price immediately. Because this is a kill card. This is a commander that is almost like an Ishai, where Ishai gets really big, and then you use Jeska to increase, Ishai's power like threefold. So Tifa is kind of in the same realm, and you could use the Jeska Planeswalker and make Tifa just kill the whole board immediately almost. So this is, and she gets that +3/+3. All you have to have is like it gets +1/+1 for each opponent you attack this combat, right? So if you just had a couple of other little tiny, they just have to attack. They don't even have to deal damage. So that's just like crazy. And then Tifa gets +1/+1 if you had like a 1/1 attacking another person. And then all of a sudden, this thing is a 7/7, and then it gets Jeska'd, and then the whole board just dies. So I can see immediately why this is so expensive, or people want to put a big price on it, because she is pretty badass. And then if that doesn't do the job, you get a whole new combat phase, which is crazy.
And I mean, think about like keeping in a line with the channel Goyfs. Like, think about pairing her with Polygoyf.
Oh yeah, a myriad effect.
Yeah, you have myriad, plus it triggers melee for her, and like he's already going to have trample. You're going to have other things in the graveyard, so you could definitely try to get him up to 7, and that's assuming you don't have other like battlefield enchantments.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's pretty cool. And then, so she comes from Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Love it.
The next one, I think... Well, I'm actually going to skip a little bit of the ones that we talked about real quick, just because I think this one combos well with Tifa.
Yeah, which one are we going to?
So we're going to talk about Zell.
Zell.
So Zell comes from Final Fantasy VIII. I played through 8. I've beaten it. It's not one of my like top favorite ones. It was a little odd, but...
Mine was odd.
The story is just very strange. You start off as like mercenaries in a school, and then you end up having to fight some like demigoddess who's trying to destroy the universe or something, and it's just, the writing's a little convoluted in that one, especially. I may get hate for that one. I know there are some people that defend every single one of these games.
No, this is, whatever. Like, I'm pretty sure you probably have a ton of people out there who are like, yeah, the writing was probably bad at that. Like, now, I don't have an opinion on it because I've never played And, and so, yeah, we're probably going to get some hate for that. I've never played any Final Fantasy, if you can believe that. Some people can't believe it. I've watched people play, and I've also, barely played some of the older ones, like the 2D versions.
Yeah, like the old ones.
Yeah, way back in the day, but barely, So
Yeah.
I'm not a Final Fantasy guy at all, really. So, yeah, but your opinion on it is probably shared by multiple people. Come on, I mean.
Yeah, I will say 8 had some cool things. They introduced the iconic gunblade that Squall has, and that was pretty cool. Like, literally a sword with a revolver built into it. If you've never seen the picture of it, you should Google the Final Fantasy gunblade. It's pretty fun.
It sounds amazing.
But the reason I think Zell would work well with Tifa here is because of his +1/+0 for each land you control. Also, the additional land each turn and returning a land to your hand. If you combo Tifa and her with some landfall creatures, because there's a whole lot of green landfalls that are going to let you ramp up, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I just think that would be kind of a fun combo. And then there's some fun parallels between them. They're both martial artists.
Yeah. Ooh, man. So there's a lot of... there was a lot, even in Aether Drift, there was a lot of new landfall cards that came out as well. They mostly did energy because, it was all like a energy car kind of set, but there was a lot of landfall stuff with that. There might be a way to integrate some of that stuff. I don't know. I'd have to look and see if the red landfall could integrate into a Tifa deck with some other landfall stuff, additional land each turn, and then there's plenty of ways to take advantage of that and then play multiple lands, especially if you have fetch lands.
Yeah, and he has a built-in at the beginning of your in-step return a land.
Right.
So you're constantly going to be able to trigger landfall every turn.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I guess back to Final Fantasy VII, we got Cloud, ex-Soldier.
Cloud!
He is the main character of Final Fantasy VII. He's probably the most iconic Final Fantasy character, I would argue, other than maybe Sephiroth. Giant Buster Sword, which is that giant, massive anime sword he has.
Yeah, they actually made this into an equipment.
Yeah, which is his whole shtick here, actually. He has haste. You can attach up to one target equipment you control when he enters.
Boom.
And when he attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. If Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens.
Yeah, I guess, there's a theme here, if you see. It's if it has 7 or greater power. So I guess maybe is that a throwback to Final Fantasy VII?
I think it's a reference to Final Fantasy VII. Yeah,
okay.
The fact that it's the 7th title.
Got it.
I also think it's funny here that he generates treasure tokens. One of his whole things, especially early game, is he starts off doing everything in it for money. He's not trying to be the hero. There's a couple moments where they're like, "Hey, can you move that boulder?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's gonna be 1,000 gil."
That'll be 1,000. What is it called? What's the money called?
They call it gil, Gil.
Gil. Oh, okay. All right. Why do they call it gil?
I don't know. I've never actually questioned that.
Well, if anybody knows, down in the comments below, let us know why they call it gil. I'm sure some ridiculous super fan is they call it gil because of this lore.
But yeah, I figure he should get talked about just because he's so iconic.
Yeah, he is pretty freaking awesome. I like the artwork on this, and there's a couple of artworks.
Yeah, and there's a couple of different Cloud cards. I don't know if this is considered the best one. I'm
telling you, the background one with him having the Buster Sword up on his shoulder, that's pretty cool. Now, I did hear that the prices on the Commander decks and stuff are actually way up there as well.
It wouldn't surprise me. I think these ones are going to be out of the box a lot more powerful than some of the... I think it's going to be more akin to the Warhammer ones.
Right.
And those were, I think, $90 each?
Yeah, they were pretty expensive.
So next we got Aerith Gainsborough. Aerith is also part of the Final Fantasy VII group. There's a whole bunch of them. I think she's the last one we're talking about.
So this one was weird. It had a meme going around.
Yes.
That she was this akin to Walking Ballista.
Okay.
So whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter. Whenever it dies, put X +1/+1 counters on each legendary creature, where X is the number of counters. So
Yeah.
I was like, where's the? I'm not seeing the Walking Ballista connection, but I know that you do give Walking Ballista lifelink with like Heliod, and then it gets +1/+1 counters, and then that's just like an infinite, thing, because Walking Ballista can then remove a counter to do a point of damage, and then it has lifelink, so then it gets another counter from Heliod, so on and so forth. But I was like, why is this Walking Ballista? I didn't really see the connection. But
I'm not sure that I really see the connection with it either, other than just I'm sure with white it's going to be easy to get counters on her and to trigger them to other stuff.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. It's like she can have 1 billion counters on her if you do the Walking Ballista combo.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, she would be able to have like infinite counters on her.
Now, here's what I think is funny about this card. I think it's hilarious. Potential spoilers if anybody cares, but it's Final Fantasy VII's been out forever. Aerith dies.
Oh, no, don't tell us. Oh my god.
Giving her a death counter, or a death trigger, is hilarious.
So, I mean, it's on point.
Yeah, because back when the game came out, nobody knew, because she's one of your main party members. So you spend most of the game leveling her up, and a lot of people made her one of the only couple of party members they leveled up, because she's like only default healer. Yeah, she dies partway through the game, and like there's no like resurrection or replacing her with a like level character.
Why do they even allow you to level her up just to destroy your heart and break your whole like psyche?
Because that's what they like to do.
Because the Final Fantasy people are evil.
Yeah, no, it was brutal.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I think it's kind of funny that they gave her a death trigger.
Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, it's on flavor for the game then.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is kind of a cool build. Like you could really build actually a pretty fun deck. Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't be like a super competitive deck, but you might be able to do something where you have also Aetherflux Reservoir, where you're also gaining life, and then every time you get a gain life trigger, she would get another counter, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of synergy with her and the gaining life thing, and then of course the dying part. But
yeah, if you're building with because a lot of the creatures from this set are legendary. So if you're playing with a lot of those, removing her as a threat then makes your entire board state a threat.
Yeah, definitely like a Yoshimaru type of build, because Yoshimaru is the little 1-mana dog that deals with legendaries.
Yeah. I could see this card being fun and having some really fun builds around it.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be super competitive. It might actually be competitive, but I don't think it's going to be competitive on a like like a tier. You're not going to go to a CDH tournament with like a
but deck, for like where I tend to play with a lot of like precons and like lower power decks. So like my play group would probably have a lot of fun building around Aerith.
Yeah, for sure. Like in a bracket 2-3 kind of a play group and just having fun, or like we do here sometimes, like shooting an episode. For gameplay and just have like a fun life gain deck. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So the next one is the one that when the spoiler came out, people were raging about a little bit.
Oh.
Jumbo Cactuar.
Oh yeah, this guy. such a stupid looking. I mean, it's iconic for Final Fantasy, but to me, when I saw this card, I was like, what kind of dumb?
Yeah, there's another famous creature card that I probably should look that up and send that to you too, because it'd be fun to talk about. But Cactuar is one of those enemies that's in almost every Final Fantasy game. Like, it's just iconic for the series, like chocobos or Moogles or Tonberries.
And you just meet him in the desert? Yeah,
they're usually in the desert, and they have... Usually they'll run away, but every now and then when you fight them, or if there's like a big version like Jumbo Cactuar, they have an ability called 10,000 Needles, where they hit you and they just do like 9,999 damage to everybody on your team.
Now, okay, let me ask. So in Magic, that's like an insane amount of damage. in some other games, it's not so much just an insane amount of damage. Now, in Final Fantasy, would that kill a lot of your characters?
Okay. Some game, like in Final Fantasy X, they had things called health limit breakers or damage breakers where you could pass that threshold. But by default, 9,999 is the max you can get.
Oh.
So it's like an insta-kill move if it goes off, unless you like have some kind of spell that prevents it.
And there's no way to avoid this if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's Protect. I don't think Reflect would do it. There's probably a couple ways. People get real creative with the Final Fantasy game combats, better than I ever was.
Right.
Because it's all turn-based, so it's sort of like, I don't know, people are better at Pokemon than me, too.
Right. I mean, yeah, people are better at a lot of things than I am.
But he's iconic, and the move is fun.
Okay, but there is ways to, like, maybe reduce the damage a little bit, or, like, get out of the way.
Well, and usually by that point, by the time you're supposed to be fighting things like that, like, you don't need to ever to progress. He's like an optional enemy. And usually you can do enough damage to kill him before you can really do anything.
Okay. So in Magic, though, this guy combos with a number of cards. I think to me, the best one was the Golgari Lichlord. Yeah. So Gerard Golgari Lichlord.
Ooh, yeah, I see where that works.
So if you read this, what's the second ability say?
One colorless, a black and a green, sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power.
Right. So immediately, this thing just has to attack. It becomes a 10,000, and then you do the Gerard ability, and the table's dead. Now, there's ways to interact with this, right? Because you have several things happening. There's a trigger for Jumbo Cactuar. There's a trigger for Gerard to do his thing. You know, there's an attack trigger. There's lots of places to interact with this, and it's very kind of telegraphed a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you can get it to go, the table is just dead, you know?
Yeah, Cactuar doesn't have haste. He's a 7-drop. Like, there's a lot of things holding this up from being the insta-kill combo that I think everyone was
he does have a
of.
big butt. You know, he has a 7 defense. So
yes,
that's pretty good in Magic. And so he might survive. He could get killed by other things or like exile the creature or whatever. But
yeah.
But if he stays out there and you're able to get that little combo off, yeah, it's goodbye table.
I like the idea of running this in a red-green. And, like, having things like Anger in your graveyard so he has haste.
Jund.
Cast Fling or Overwhelming Stampede would be a really fun one for him.
Yeah. Now, there's ways to protect yourself. I mean, there's multiple ways to do it through artifacts and stuff, but there's a card called City of Solitude in green, where if you play City of Solitude, it's a enchantment, and it just says it's basically like a Grand Abolisher. Your opponents can't cast spells or abilities during each other's turns.
Yeah.
Right. So on your turn, if first thing you do is put down the City of Solitude, then you can get that combo to go off, fairly easily, and make something happen. Now, people can interact again, of course, with like Boseiju, and Boseiju, your City of Solitude or something like that. And then maybe somebody else can interact with the triggers for Jumbo Cactuar, but for the most part, once you get something like that down to protect yourself, or even like because Jumbo Cactuar is green, so I'm trying to stay in the green realm.
You got like totem armor too.
Yeah. You could exactly. You could like individually protect these creatures, in order to like not have them removed. Yeah, give them hexproof. The other one was a Cutzel I was thinking of. So you could do like a Abzan build where you have white, black, and green, and have a Cutzel. You could have Grand Abolisher. You could have all kinds of like, don't mess with me on my turn kind of creatures or interactions. And then the other thing about Cutzel, though, is that Cutzel says that the creature gets, or you get to draw a card if the creature's power was greater than its power normally was. I can't remember the exact wording, but you would get a card draw. Not that you would need a card draw because you're probably killing everybody if this goes through.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, either way, people could also just distract from another thing you have set up.
Yeah. And so people could though. It's not like there's gonna be interaction points, right? There's Like we had our last game where we played live at my buddy Dave's house, and my other buddy Eric, he cast a spell called Everybody Lives. So yeah, Jumbo Cactuar attacks, right, and then the damage is going to go through, but the damage, if the nobody, what Everybody Lives says is like nobody loses life, nobody can lose, no players can lose life, So yeah, you'd have something like that where like, oh yeah, you could stop it that way. There's just plenty of ways to like.
Yeah, I understand,
but it is fun.
I understand there was a little bit of concern because it breaks the conventions of like the typical attack numbers that you see in Magic.
Yeah,
but there's so many ways around it that it like the difference between getting plus 20 or plus 9,999 is just flavor text for most formats.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're gonna get plus 40 or whatever, or plus 20 on a creature, usually that means you're dead.
So like, almost. Is this number bigger than it needs to be? Yeah, but it's thematic.
And exactly. It just goes with this. Yeah, exactly. It goes with the flavor of the set, and like you said, the extra damage is like arbitrary. It's like getting shot with Aetherflux Reservoir for 50.
But yeah, there was a lot of people that I saw online when this card got revealed that were upset, and I just think there's enough infinite combos, and like I've seen people get like thousands of Scoot Swarms in Arena before. Like, this is not breaking the game.
Or billions. I mean, you could do Scoot Swarm out to an infinite number almost,
So the next one is less broken, and I don't know that I really want to build around him, but I'm mentioning him because I got asked to specifically. My girlfriend wants to build a whole deck around this guy.
Okay.
Stiltzkin Moogle Merchant.
Oh, he's so cute.
Moogles are adorable. They're a staple in the Final Fantasy series. They usually act as like mythical fairy type creatures where most people can't see them in most of the games, but they reveal themselves to like those of pure of heart or whatever they decide in each iteration. But sometimes they show up as special merchants.
Like a little fairy god Moogle.
Yeah, and there's a couple Moogles in this set, but Stiltzkin's kind of fun, and I wanted to ask you if you had any fun ideas for his ability here, because it seems interesting.
Oh, yeah, this is all bad for your opponents, because if you had like a leveler or something like that, target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. So you give them a leveler, it takes out their whole deck, and then it asks them, and then it says you can draw a card, right? But this card could be brutal for your opponents. Now, the thing that it's in white, so you're going to need to look for... So typically white doesn't have the cards that you would need to push over to your opponents to like really mess up their day.
Right.
So you would have to look for artifacts that would also be able to do that. If you're gonna have Stiltzkin as the commander, you're gonna need to look for artifacts like Leveler and some other ones that are like skip your next 2 turns. There's a couple of artifact creatures that I can think of back in the day for Magic that would be really bad, for your opponents to have. But white typically just doesn't have like normally this deck is built with things like I think he's called Blim, the comedic genius.
Yeah.
And he's black-red. And there's plenty of things in black-red that, you can give your opponents that will just wreck their day. But in white, I would have to go in and look at a couple of things and see. I would have to do some digging.
Yeah, he may work better as one of the 99 and then building a deck with just him and some other stuff.
So what she could look at is something like a Mardu deck, like red, black, and white, and then Stiltzkin could be in there as part of the plan to like give your opponents things that they just don't want.
Okay,
like certain enchantments that just say like draw 4 cards and lose 4 life, and then the next upkeep their next choice is like you lose the game. So there's a bunch of cards like that in black and red that people want to give their opponents, and they usually do that with is it Blim or Glim? I can't remember the name of this. His comedic genius is what he's
Blim. Part of his... Blim, comedic genius. Deals combat damage to a player. That player gains control of a target permanent you control. Then they lose life and discard cards equal to the number of permanents they control but don't own.
Yeah, all terrible. Right.
Yeah.
So for Stiltzkin, target opponent gains control of another target environment you control. So there's gotta be. You're gonna have to look in your artifacts for things that are terrible, especially if she wants to build it around just this guy, which I think is fine. Because
I think it's more Moogles in general, but this is the one that she saw.
Right. I just want a Moogle deck. But for this one, I would look for like terrible artifacts that nobody wants. And then I would look for curses. There are certain curses. Like there's that really big one that makes all of your opponent's creatures base power and toughness 1/1. I can't remember the name of it, but it's really bad for your opponents. Yeah, you could make it like a Hugs deck. You can make
that would
it
be
like,
fun. Group hug
you know what? Who else wants this Blightsteel Colossus? You? Okay.
Next up, we got Vivi Ornitier. Vivi.
Oh yeah, this card is being talked about by everybody.
Yeah, Vivi is the Black Mage in Final Fantasy IX. Vivi has a very sad story, but Vivi is one of the most iconic characters from that game, I think.
What's the sad story?
Vivi's a clone. The kingdom basically made a whole bunch of artificial humans that were just designed to be cannon fodder mages for a war, and they have a total lifespan of 13 years.
Oh, they're like a dog.
Yeah, they're all brainwashed at first. So Vivi manages to get away and break free of their brainwashing, but finds out
he's only got 13 years.
Cursed to die young.
Oh.
So he has a 0-cost activated ability. Add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi Ornitier's power. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent.
Right. Yeah. So, what you combo out with
him
this
with Niv Mizzet and a bunch of draw mechanics.
Right. Well, he would be this would be the commander.
But I would want some Niv Mizzet support in there for the extra draws, and then you just build a draw deck.
So you basically combo out with this, and you're casting as many non-creature spells as you possibly can. Basically, kill the whole board. Some people might think I can storm off. Well, storm is just copying, right? So you're not actually casting. So you have to pay attention to the wording there, cast and copy. So Vivi does not say anything about copying spells. This is only for casting spells.
Yeah, you'd need a raw storm conduit for that.
The activating the mana piece is actually pretty cool because you can actually only during your turn and only once each turn. So they limit it, but it is pretty cool to add that extra amount of mana to keep going if you needed to, right?
Yeah.
The one thing here is also Vivi does not have haste. Although this card could be brutal and really good.
Control and burn would be huge with Vivi. I mean, it's just going to work well.
I think what people are trying to do is they're taking a lot of advantage of whenever you cast a spell kind of effects. So there's a lot of creatures that you could put in there. Just like you said, Niv Mizzet pay a rune, a storm killing artist. People are looking at Magecraft and Vivi and kind of combining that together a lot. The majority of the deck is going to be instants, right? And also instants that are small. So almost similar to that Thunder Junction lady that's red and blue. Stella,
yeah.
Yes. So Stella Lee is kind of similar in this vein. You're going to have a ton of instants, and then Stella is going to trigger, and then once Stella triggers, there's an infinite combo where she just keeps going and going. And Vivi is going to be kind of the similar to where you're just going to get to a point where you can continually cast spells.
Yeah.
Right. And then you would put in, especially something like a
Gutter Snipe
or something like that. But the biggest thing is the Underworld Breach Lion's Eye Diamond combo, because you're continually casting Lion's Eye Diamond and then whatever spell. And you're doing that multiple times. You're just going to keep dealing damage to the opponent. If Vivi's been out for a turn, then can, at the last minute, if you need to or whatever, add that mana in there to go ahead and give you that extra boost of red and blue mana that you need. But
I can see this being a big commander build.
Yeah, in a CDH terminology, this is an amazing Underworld Breach Lion's Eye Diamond Brain Freeze combo commander.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of these red-blue decks.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really what you're kind of going for in my mind. With Vivi is the Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond. Like, I'm casting this multiple times. I'm getting rid of my graveyard by using things like Wheel of Fortune and stuff like that. So, or not getting rid of my graveyard, but getting rid of my hand and then filling my graveyard with things like Wheel of Fortune. And I think that's why the price tag on Vivi is so high, is because people are like, yes, Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond, cast that a million times, kill the table. I don't even have to do anything with Breach or have like an extra win con, because Vivi is the win con. Yeah. Which is not typical in CDH, but it is the win con. So one of his versions is like $166 already.
Yeah, it's a cool version.
Is that more of like what the game looks like, or what he looks like in the game?
Final Fantasy IX was like very early 3D graphics. I want to say it was a PlayStation 1 game. So it wasn't quite as hand-drawn as that one, but I like that style.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, very cartoonish, very like Frog and Toad type of illustration.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So next we got Tidus. Some people say Tidus. I've heard a lot of argument about whether it's Tidus or Tidus. I have always said Tidus.
I mean, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Tidus.
So he's the main character of Final Fantasy X. So Tidus, Yuna's guardian. He is a legendary creature. I've always liked his design. Final Fantasy X was the first Final Fantasy game I played, so I'm a little partial to it. It's, I think, still my favorite. But at the beginning of combat, on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Mm-hmm. And then he has an ability called Cheer, which actually lines up with a Final Fantasy game ability called Cheer.
So Tidus or Tidus?
Yeah, I've always heard
people
Tidus.
Are saying?
Yeah.
I think it's Tidus. There's Titus, right, with a T, but Tidus makes sense. You know what's funny is that they made Tidus Thrasios Triton hero, which is a merfolk wizard, and Tidus is definitely a human, so that's weird.
Is this a copy of a different card?
Yeah, so they did like an overlay print, or like a reprint of Thrasios Triton hero, but with Tidus artwork.
Oh, that's a different version of him. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's the same character, but like, why? He's not anyway.
Yeah, there's a couple for all of these characters. Cloud, Tifa, Aerith. There's a couple of different versions of them.
Right.
The one I was bringing up was Tidus, Yuna's guardian.
Oh, Yuna's guardian. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say there's multiple iterations of Tidus here. So yeah, Yuna's guardian. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you with Cheer. Go ahead with Cheer. Good.
So in Final Fantasy, you can use an ability called Cheer, where you transfer your overdrive gauge to another ally, so that they can use their ultimate attack.
Oh,
so
cool.
In here, they made it so that whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deals combat damage, you may draw a card and proliferate. So it kind of increases their abilities.
Oh wow, okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, so move a counter from it. So basically, it's. Actually, this is a very D&D type of thing for bards.
Yes.
Because bards can give you bardic inspiration, which gives you an extra boost to like whatever you're trying to do, like your strength check or whatever.
Yeah, most people build Tidus in Final Fantasy X as a support character, so it works well.
Yeah, so he is basically a bard.
Yeah, to a degree.
Okay.
I won't get into his crazy story, because that's nuts. It's a good game, but his story's crazy.
What's the down and dirty, the quick and easy? What essentially happens?
He thinks he's a time traveler. He got eaten by a giant monster and woke up like 1,000 years later. And then you find out that he's not. He's actually a dream.
Oh.
He is like a living summon creature. He's very strange.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm pretty sure that's... so is he like a fan favorite?
I think he's pretty well liked. I would say he's definitely a fan favorite.
Nice.
Then you have Yuna Grand Summoner.
Yuna Grand Summoner.
So this is... Tidus is Yuna's guardian, so this is Yuna. And we'd mentioned her at the beginning, how I said she should have Garnet's ability.
Oh, yeah, okay. That is true. We were having an argument about colors of rare mineral stones and why they're assigned to different colors in Magic.
Yeah.
So this is Yuna. Oh yeah, so another Bant commander. These probably are in the I don't know what the commander decks have? I didn't really look at the inventory for each.
I do think this is one of the precons.
This is insane. The prices on this individual.
Oh, I know. It's absolutely nuts.
$480.
Yeah, for that alt art one.
So what's the theme on Yuna?
In Final Fantasy X, she's a summoner. She summons giant monsters that help you fight.
Well, there you go. I mean, she's right on point then.
So here she has Grand Summon, tap to add 1 mana of any color. When you next cast a creature spell this turn, it enters with 2 additional counters on it, or additional +1/+1 counters. And whenever another permanent you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you may put that number of counters on a target creature.
So Yuna is actually more like Arcbound Ravager, which has modular, right? So modular is kind of similar to where whenever this creature dies, you may put its +1/+1 counters on a target artifact creature. But in this case, for Yuna, it's any creature, right?
It's also any counter.
And any counter. Yeah, that's
Which
true.
matters for the summon creatures that they introduced in this set that we'll talk about in a minute, because they have lore counters on them. So when they die, you get extra counters on another creature you have. So she does combo well with summons.
Okay, wow, cool.
So maybe it is pretty thematic for her. I still like Garnet's ability a little bit better. I think it fits. I don't know. I could be wrong.
So you said, so the argument was you think that this should have been Garnet's ability?
The kind of more the other way around.
Okay. Garnet's ability should have been Yuna's ability.
Yeah, Garnet lets you remove lore counters from a saga you control.
Got it.
So you could technically use that with the summons to keep them out on the battlefield longer. Maybe that wouldn't work so well for Yuna. Like, she can't really keep them on the field that long in the game. So that makes sense, I guess. But I don't know. I just kind of like the direct interaction with, like, calling out lore counters, because Garnet's obviously built for the saga cards.
Oh, yeah. But she's obviously not as, like, popular as of a character, I guess, because...
Yeah.
Price, and I'm just going based off of price differences, because I imagine these prices are being driven by the market, and people's excitement about one character or another, and I mean, also the abilities in Magic for what they do. I feel like this set, you're going to see a lot of cards that we're going to find out later break the game, and you're going to,
100%.
A lot of these cards are going to get bracketed into CEDH. Yeah. Or there may even be bans if there's like a crazy Nadu thing happening with one of these things.
This set in general has some serious power creep implications to it.
Yeah, Garnet is not exactly Nadu, material. However, I was just, kind of pointing out generally that I'm seeing a lot of cards that have a lot of synergy with a lot of different things. And when you see that, I think traditionally in Magic, you start to get the feeling that, oh man, there's going to be something that this card is going to break somehow in Magic. There's going to be a new card or an old card that maybe was already banned or something like that, that is going to basically break the game. And with like all these legendaries, like you mentioned before, there's no telling, man, like one of these new commanders might do with some of these cards we've had in the sets before,
Yeah, I think it could change the landscape of Commander quite a bit. There's a lot of potential with some of these. But anyways, I guess that's Yuna and Garnet, right? So the next one is a reprint card. I just want to talk about it because I think the reprint's funny. And that's Inspiring Call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you were talking about this in our little pre-conversation a little bit. What is so funny about it? I mean, obviously, there's laughing all over this card, but what's so funny about it?
10 was the first voice-acted Final Fantasy game. And there's a scene where Tidus and Yuna basically just got really bad news about how things are going to get handled, and Tidus is all down on himself, and Yuna, she's basically like, you just got to learn how to laugh through, like, even when you don't feel like it. So just try it. Just try to laugh, even though you don't feel like laughing. Uh-huh. And it's the cringiest, like, ah ha 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 ha.
I'm so sad, but I'm laughing.
And then it cuts to the rest of the party members, and they're all looking at the two of them like they're insane, and it's just a fun moment. Like, This card is
so this is a cutscene, essentially, is what this is.
Yeah, you can,
okay.
if you look up Final Fantasy X laughing, you'll find it. Like,
okay, it's like probably memed out, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. So it's a reprint, but it also, I think, could work for some of her abilities. Like
well, yeah. I mean, it's a card. I think it came out in cons initially because the Abzan were huge on counters, right? So obviously, with this set, you have a lot of counters moving around from different, as we've seen already, like different legendary creatures and stuff like that. So it makes sense also from a Magic perspective that they would draw this card back in, and then give it a new skin with, of course, the meme scene. So yeah, so it kind of makes sense, and it's a throwback to the cons anyway, because Abzan is huge on counters. Any kind of Abzan thing you build at all, and just as you saw with Tarkir Dragonstorm, you look at any one of those Abzan cards, and actually in the pre-release for Abzan, I played Abzan in the pre-release, and one with a card called Armament Dragon. So Armament Dragon comes in and it distributes 3 +1/+1 counters. So yeah, it's this card would actually go quite well with Armament Dragon. But anyway, yeah, I can see the big throwback here in the Magic realm that you're tossing counters on everything. So
yeah, I definitely feel like this could see some use with, especially using like Tidus's ability to move counters around and Yuna's ability to gain counters. Like this could be a good card to put in.
Oh yeah. I mean, even if you were playing like a teamer thing with Vivi, you could throw this in there to put counters on Vivi.
Because then she'd gain indestructible too, or he'd gain indestructible too.
Yeah, true. Oh yeah, and you could protect him. That's right. So now that's more of a. I think in the CDH realm, you're not going to see this card play because it's 3 mana is a lot, and also a lot of those builds and strategies. Well, I guess with the exception of like Timnachrom, I don't know, but see, you're not in Timnachrom, you're not in green.
No,
maybe
but
in
the draw,
Thrasios Timna, you might see it.
The draw is nice though, because it's draw for each creature. So like it could be. I mean, it's 3 drop, but like if you really need some draw in your deck, like it may not be a bad thing to have something like this.
Yeah, but always the 3 mana, it's just so much for a CDH deck to do, because CDH decks are so light on they're more like efficient with mana. It's like I'm gonna play a Soul Ring, but I'm also gonna put this
there's much better things you could be doing for 3 mana.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just it is a good card. I think if it was 2 mana, it'd probably just be broken for 2 mana, but
yeah, that's fair.
But but it would definitely be a CDH card at that point, a bracket 5 sequestered card for sure. It's just too powerful to not be 3 mana, I think.
Yeah. All right, so the other one I want to talk about is actually a whole series of cards. I'm just bringing up one of them in particular, but I'm really excited about these ones.
Oh, yeah.
They're the summon cards.
Yeah, baby.
So this one is Summon Bahamut.
Look at this guy. Damn!
So, first off, I mean, enchantment creatures are nothing new, but I could be wrong, but I do not think there have been enchantment saga creatures before.
No.
And I think that's super cool.
Yeah, nothing like this. This is nuts.
I mean, they're definitely expensive, but the fact that you put the lore counters on them and they trigger unique abilities each turn, as well as just being powerful creatures, like it's really cool.
Yeah, and so, I mean, Bahamut is kind of crazy because you get two turns of just destroying anything on the board.
Yeah.
And I mean, well, okay, non-land permanent. I hate when they do that. Why not just put permanent? Then just make it really spicy at that point.
Yeah, people just don't like land destruction, which, I get.
Yeah, I think that's like a thing that was kind of like a topic I've seen discussed, is that Wizards puts non-land in front of destroy non-land permanent, often because people are just have a disdain for land destruction. But then, of course, they print cards like, Fall of Thran, which is like destroy all lands. So, come on, man.
So Bahamut in particular is cool. He's one of the summons from pretty much all of the Final Fantasy games, and the way he works is different in each one a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was always known for a mega flare attack. And flare is supposed to be like the most powerful version of fire magic, and then each magic has like different levels. So mega flare is, I think, the second highest level of flare that can possibly happen.
What's the first level?
It's called Zeta flare.
Well,
And
why doesn't
oddly
Bahamut do
enough,
Zeta flares? Look at this dude.
well, so there's only a couple. As far as Square Enix is concerned, there's only a couple of characters that have ever been able to cast Zeta Flare, and one of them is going to make you question everything everything.
It's like the Emrakul of Final Fantasy, basically.
Square Enix and Disney partner together to make my favorite game, Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
And in Kingdom Hearts 3, possible spoiler warning for anybody that hasn't played it, Donald Duck casts Zeta Flare, and it kills him.
I mean, makes sense, because that dude can get some anger up. You know what I mean? He can get them feathers ruffled, baby.
He, shoots a massive Zeta Flare straight into the sky, and it kills him, and the only way they get him back is through some time travel shenanigans.
Donald Duck, man, is, he's an angry dude. He's like, if you were he would be like Super Saiyan of those cartoon characters, I think.
Oh, yeah. He definitely needs some anger management classes.
Right. He's gonna get them feathers ruffled, baby. Well,
and in he's frequently displayed in some kind of sailor outfit, so you just know he's a disgruntled sailor.
he's going around whooping all kind of people's asses.
Yeah, he was definitely a machinist mate.
Right? He's like, what the hell are you doing in engineering?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so these sagas are just super cool. A lot of them are really fun. Bahamut's cool in particular, but I really like the way they play, especially with Yuna Grand Summoner or Garnet. You can do a lot of fun stuff with this. Oh yeah.
So now let's go back to Garnet real quick. So she remove a lore counter, so she can push Bahamut ahead.
She can push him back.
Oh, push him back. Oh, yeah. Okay. Because you're adding the counter, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so let's say you have turn 1, turn 2. Wow. You can then remove a counter and destroy another non-land.
And you're just like, I'm just going to keep destroying non-land permanents.
Right. And then because you sacrifice after the final saga, you could just keep it from hitting that final saga if you want to keep them on the board.
You can continually draw 2 cards.
Yeah, you can do a lot with it depending on the summon you're looking at. And some of them are pretty good. They have some crazy abilities.
Again, another Tom Bombadil, I think a Tom Bombadil deck's because Tom Bombadil is hard to do. Again, that's another deck design or, theme that's hard to do in CEDH level. But I think in a bracket 3, bracket 2 level, you could, with these new summon creatures, and then also with Garnet, you could really do some shenanigans on a Tom Bombadil deck.
I would put Yuna and Garnet both in that, and then as many summons as you could fit in there.
Right. Yeah, I think you're going to see some resurgence of that, maybe in some casual pods. I think.
And if you find ways to get them out cheaper or free, playing creatures from graveyard, or if you find some way to just put them on the battlefield, these are incredibly powerful creatures to be doing that with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's plenty of ways to get. I think this guy's colorless, so there's plenty of ways to do reduce cost and colorless. Stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, and it's dragon also.
Yeah. So and depending on each one's a little bit different, but just in general, the summons I think they're really cool.
Yeah. Nice. That's gonna be something to see.
Yeah, I think it could play around with a lot of stuff. But then next was, I think you mentioned you wanted to bring this one up, is Diamond Weapon.
Yeah, Diamond Weapon. So I saw Diamond Weapon brought up in some brewing ideas, and any card that I can cast for less mana is immediately I'm thinking, big output for little input, right? So I have to pay very little. If I have 7 cards in the graveyard, right, or 7 permanent cards in the graveyard, that means that this spell costs 2 green. So it's almost kind of like the incentive to play the Great Hinge. You want to play a big creature that's going to reduce the Great Hinge's cost. Well, here you're kind of wanting to play into the let me get these permanent cards in the graveyard, kind of maybe even like a Dissa the Restless with a Goyf kind of thing, because Goyfs also go along with getting card types in the graveyard. So you could be pushing this into some sort of build like that, and then all of a sudden this thing is an 8/8 with reach that costs 2 green mana, and it's immune to all combat damage. Like, how disgusting is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
so
nuts.
yeah. This is I don't know exactly if it would go into CEDH, but like you definitely high power with this kind of card. Definitely in the bracket 4 level in my thoughts and what you could do with something like this.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do some of the other weapons because I'm pretty sure there's like Diamond, Emerald, and something else.
Yeah,
but Diamond is the like ultimate one.
Ruby was one of the ones I saw mentioned.
Yeah, so and Emerald. I don't think they're in the set, but the weapons in general, they're from Final Fantasy VII, and it's the planet's ultimate defense. They like summon these creatures from the earth to like defend against a massive threat, and they're like the super optional secret boss kind of thing.
Oh wait, so they're good guys, but you can also fight them as in bosses.
Yeah, because once they're released, because their goal is to protect the planet, not humanity.
Oh.
So
we don't give a shit about you.
Well,
all we care about is the fact that this planet survives.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair to them, in the world of Final Fantasy VII, it's kind of the whole thing is kind of environmentalism. So like they're literally draining the planet dry of its life force. So the weapons kind of
these weapons are.
No, the people are.
Oh, the people. Okay, got it.
Yeah, the Shinra company is literally draining the earth of its life force.
Okay, so it's very like connects to like real life kind of theme where they're like, you know, big corporations are kind of draining our natural resources, and these things are there to like, hey, that's
very
enough.
Much. Yeah,
and we're going to destroy your corporation now.
Yeah, and Final Fantasy VII is kind of like the ultimate level of that, where the corporation is now also the ruling entity, like they're the government, and like. It's a mess.
These things are pretty cool, man. Anything that gets some kind of discount, especially if I can discount it all the way down to like 2 mana, and it's a huge, powerful thing to do. Like, yeah, that's something I'm interested in, especially at a high power level. I mean, anybody, it really, you know, because you could play something like this in bracket 1, really.
Yeah. So. Well, and then not to mention he's like he has immune, so I mean it was just basically indestructible, right? Like
basically indestructible. Well, all combat damage is prevented, so not really indestructible, but all combat damage that we beat up to him is prevented.
Right, which is still pretty solid.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this thing going up against any kind of other creatures is just smashing through. You know.
Yeah. Next is another iconic Final Fantasy monster, Tonberry.
Okay. I heard a little bit about this, and people were like, "Oh, Tonberry," and I was like, "That looks like a blob."
Yes. So, I can't speak for some of the earlier iterations. I think I don't know when he was introduced. The card says Final Fantasy V, so I'm assuming then. But he's been in most of the like modern games, and I will tell you from experience in the modern games, when he shows up, especially at first, he doesn't look scary, right. But he's usually in an end-game area. And he just stands there while you attack him. And like every turn he takes a single step forward towards you, and once he gets all the way, he uses Chef's Knife, which is an insta-kill.
Oh wow.
So he just like slowly walks towards you and then stabs you. It's like very like horror movie kind of vibes.
This is basically Jason.
Yeah.
From Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Literally Jason.
Yeah, basically.
He's like indestructible. Is he indestructible too? That would be kind of crazy if he was. Wouldn't that be on theme though?
It would be, but in the games he's not indestructible. He just has a ton of he is a tank. Like you can unload on him and it won't kill him. So it's when you see him, it's like a race to kill him before he gets to you.
Got it. So you're really trying to up your DPS in the game, damage per second in the game, to like actually get him down before he just one-shots you.
Yeah, and he doesn't... This card isn't, I don't think, particularly strong for Magic. I could be wrong. Maybe you're seeing something I'm not. But I do think it's just kind of fun. But he enters tapped with a stun counter. Right.
The reason for that is because it's a 2/1 that on your turn has First Strike and Death Touch. And then from 1 mana, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, but I think the limitation... I really think the stun counter is... Like, that's a big limitation because he enters tapped... And with the stun counter, you're not using him for 2 turns. And it is not hard to ping somebody for 1 point of damage.
True. And it's in black, which traditionally doesn't have a lot of things that say untap target creature. Or untap, target permanent or something like that.
Yeah, now if you were running
something
them
like that,
in-
but this is, to me, this card is not really a commander card. To me, this is a card that is going to be in a 60 card format, modern, maybe even in standard.
Yeah.
And definitely something to look at for if people are looking to pre-release and then, do the pre-release events or anything like that. This would be a card to definitely keep. If you see it, if you get it in your pack and you're in black, you have the ability to put black into your deck, for whatever pre-release deck or pre-constructed deck or whatever it is that you're doing. This, or even draft, like this would be a good card to draft or put into your pre-release deck, but and even standard. But yeah, like this,
I just don't see it getting a lot of use in because in Commander you have access to so many more cards. I mean, there's just so many rat cards even just in black that have Death Touch that I wouldn't want to replace a Tonberry.
But super, you said, super on theme.
Yes, very fun because his whole thing is he enters, he doesn't do anything for a while, and then he smacks you hard and fast. That's why he has a stun counter. There you go. So very thematic. I like it.
There you go. Awesome.
And then the last one is we have already talked about, and you, I know, have plans for.
Oh, yeah.
So the last one is that I want to talk about in this video while we have time is Sid Timeless Artificer.
Yeah, baby. So, okay. Some of the play groups I have, right, especially my buddy Dave and Cassie, they build decks. If there's a card that comes out in Magic and it says you can have any number of this card in your deck, they are usually building that deck. So I see this one because it's an Artificer also, and it deals with artifacts. I'm a huge Artificer and Artifact fan, so I'm big time into. This is the kind of deck that I would want to build, right? So yeah, but who is Sid exactly? Because you told me he's in
all of them.
He's in every one of them. Okay, so what's up? What's his deal, man?
I'm curious. Let me see if there's why is Sid in all the Final Fantasy games?
Oh, I thought you knew. Sorry,
I don't know the exact.
I thought I was setting up a softball for you.
I just know he has been. So Sid has been, according to Google real quick, he's been in every game since Final Fantasy II. There's always
he's just like an NPC character that's just there.
It's kind of like chocobos and Moogles and Tonberries. He's just a recurring thing. But he's kind of different in every single game. So in Final Fantasy X, he's your airship pilot captain. In Final Fantasy VIII, I believe he's the headmaster of the school you're in.
Right. So the one you recommended to me for the deck that I'm going to build is
from 15.
Yeah, from Final Fantasy 15, and he's an old man who's an auto mechanic.
Yes, he is an auto mechanic. You meet him early on, and he's fun. But yeah, just old man Sid, the mechanic.
So to give a little bit of insight into maybe an upcoming video that I'm going to be doing. So when you brought that up, I was like, so how do we make this cool? And we did a little research, and what I came up with as a commander that's probably going to come out here in a near future video is Tetsun Gnome Champion. So if you bring up Tetsun Gnome Champion right here on the screen, it says whenever a double face card enters the battlefield under your control, mill 3 cards. You may put an artifact card from among them into your hand, and then craft with 6 artifacts. So Sid says artifacts and creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control, and each artificer card in your graveyard. So we're thinking, let's make these things huge and combine the power of Sid with the power of Tetsun and flip over some giant transformers. So that was kind of our thought. So that is going to be an upcoming video. I'm not going to say much more than that because I'm going to go over what I kind of put into this build here. But yeah.
So yeah, I think it's fun. And then because you can have any number of versions of him. I just think you can have some fun with this in general. And then they have a reprint version of him. Like, there's a bunch of different alt arts with all of the different versions of Sid.
Oh yeah, so you're thinking like people are going to definitely be trying to collect all the Sids.
Oh yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah, so look at the price of this guy already, though. So it's varying between which art, and one of them's like $47. That's crazy to me. Which one is this? Oh, so it's the ship's helm captain, but in what do they call that? Extended art.
Okay. But yeah, I think he's going to be fun. I like that you can use him for cycling. The thing that I'm curious about, and I've tried looking it up, so if somebody watching the video has an answer that I just don't know. He says artifact creatures and heroes. Right. But heroes is a very, very, like, I think there's only a handful of cards ever that have the subtype hero. Like Captain America.
Found tokens.
Yeah, and the tokens are from the current, the Final Fantasy set. A lot of equipment has the ability to create a token, a hero token.
Right.
So I'm wondering if this is just supposed to be playing off of those hero tokens, or if they're going to be introducing like an archetype, maybe, or like maybe it's a keyword for certain things. I'm starting to doubt that one, but I'm really wondering how that's going to play out, or why they chose heroes in particular, because there's just not a lot of support for that. I mean, there is for artifact creatures.
Right. You would imagine that the legendary creatures that they had coming out in Final Fantasy, like at least some of those would have been.
I think all of them would just about
maybe
be
all
able
of
to
them,
be.
yeah. But like at least some of them would have had the subtype, hero.
Like Yuna and Tidus and Tifa, hero. Like all of them were heroes from the previous game. So I don't know why they wouldn't have been given that.
Why would you call that a hero?
Yeah. Especially because Sid always usually helps them, particularly. So, like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so that would have made even more sense.
So I'm wondering if there's going to be some kind of, like sort of in the D&D set, there was the party, and the party consisted of, like, mage, barbarian, bard, fighter, things like that. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some kind of set archetype for what a hero is, like Artificer, things like that.
Well, you would definitely... I think if you're going to build a Sid deck, especially the one I'm trying to, you would definitely want to have stuff like Maskwood Nexus.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You would want to have things where everything's a hero,
Yeah.
And then everything's also an Artificer. So then everything that's an Artificer is adding to the heroes, and that's just adding to everybody. So then your deck is just like, just gets...
Because then everything in your graveyard, everything in your graveyard's an Artificer, which means that every artifact creature you get is a +1/+1.
Yeah, and that was super on theme. That you could actually cycle Sid and just draw a card, right? So
yeah, because you may just want him in your graveyard.
Exactly. Especially if you play with like 20+ Sids. Yeah. You're going to be cycling off because he's legendary, so you're just cycling off whatever Sids you get that are not out on the board. You're just cycling off the rest of them
for sure, and then that lets you draw out those cards you really want to be getting. And I don't know. I think it's a fun deck. I think there's some fun stuff you can do with Sid.
For sure. So especially because you're in blue, you can also do stuff like dramatic reversal, right? And with dramatic reversal out, and especially if you have it on Isochron Scepter, you can, and you have enough like other mana rocks and stuff, especially ones that make colored mana, you can then create infinite colored mana to be able to, draw cycle Sid, and then if you draw another Sid, you cycle that Sid. You just keep going.
Yeah.
And untapping your mana and keep adding more mana and then drawing more out with Sid and stuff like that. Now, of course, you would have other effects in there to help you like draw. You'd probably be playing like One Ring and stuff like that, especially if you're playing dramatic reversal.
And I mean, obviously, there's weaknesses to a deck style like that, but it's still just going to be fun.
Yeah, well, especially with the One Ring. Once it gets to so many counters or whatever, it's going to be drawing you quite a bit of a few cards.
I mean, it's real susceptible to like graveyard purges.
That's true too. If you have a bunch of Sids and then all of a sudden somebody purges your graveyard,
that could be.
And then all your creatures that you just attacked with are like 1/1s.
Yeah, But I like the idea of the Maskwood Nexus in there because if you have all artifact creatures and now they're all types, not only do they count as artificers to give you a +1/+1, but they get double counters because they get one for being an artifact and one for being a hero. So you kind of get like all three of the effects to trigger.
Oh yeah, definitely. It would add every creature you would have. Yes, would be a artificer and a hero. Yeah.
Which means that they get double bonuses as long as they're an artifact creature to begin with. They get the bonus for being an artifact creature. They get a bonus for being a hero, and they get that for each artificer, which they also are.
Right. Does it say all, or does it say every other?
For each artificer you control, and each artificer in your graveyard.
That's gross.
Yeah.
So they count for themselves.
Yes, they count for themselves and for the ones in the graveyard. The only trick is you have to make sure. I think you have to have a Sid on the battlefield for that effect to work.
Yeah, you do have to have at least one Sid. That's why when I saw this and I saw, we'd done all that searching, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun build right here. I've never built a, you could have this many of this card kind of deck before, so I'm going to kind of play around with how many Sids I actually need to have in there.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, there's a ton of cards in this Final Fantasy set that I would love to talk about. Like, there's so many really fun ones.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think there's time, because literally, like, scrolling through them, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy at all, you're going to find something in this that you like. There's going to be all sorts of fun little Easter eggs. They all seem really thematic for the cards. The art's gorgeous.
Yeah, and I mean, they're even fun for old jaded Magic players like myself who've been around for a long time, and a lot of people have like a negative opinion about this Universes Beyond, which I could definitely see, because when you come from years and years of building up this world of Jace and Chandra and all the Planeswalkers or Chandra, sorry, mispronounced it there a little bit, but when you come from that world that's been built up and that lore that's been built up for years, and then all of a sudden there's like SpongeBob, you're kind of like, okay, what are we doing? Because honestly, and then another part of that argument, right? Not that I wanted to really get into this too much, but another part of that is the fact that you don't see Magic lore and Magic IP, products in other IPs, right? So there's no like Disney Magic thing that's happening. Like, I'm not seeing Planeswalkers, like Liliana. I'm not seeing that inside of a different type of IP at all. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
why are we kind of polluting Magic with all these outside IPs? So that's kind of the argument for it. But for me, like, all I see is the fact that this helps to helps the longevity of the game, I think, because you're going to see more and more new players come, and they're going to be like, oh, Spider-Man's here. I'm going to go play some Magic because now I get to play Spider-Man in Magic. And it's all the same Magic rules. We're still playing Magic the same way. It's just, now it has a different skin over it. And of course, they're still building the world of Magic as well in the interim. So to me, it's like, yes, there is an argument for it, but at the same time, like, what are you going to do? Like, you gotta remain viable as a company and as a product, to bring in new players and stuff like that. So it's, in a way, it's almost like ingenious that we're opening up all these IPs to come into Magic. So.
Yeah, and I mean, Wizards of the Coast does it with their other IPs too. Like, Dungeons and Dragons has a Rick and Morty set.
Right.
I just think, while I understand that some people dislike it, and there are definitely certain IPs that fit better, like, I do see Final Fantasy fitting better thematically with Magic than SpongeBob does.
Right.
But it does keep people interested, it does keep people coming, and it gives, like, I don't know, if I'm a creator, it's kind of a fun way to, like, draw on inspiration from something without having to constantly try to keep up with your own lore and keep everything as consistent.
Yeah, that's a good point too. As a creator, you can then like, you can, oh, hey guys, we're gonna have a gameplay episode where we all play different Final Fantasy characters, or we all play, or we do like Final Fantasy. It's almost like Street Fighter when they started to add all those other IPs in there, or what are those other? There's a bunch of other games now that have a bunch of IPs integrated together.
Yeah, I think that the classic one that people talk about is Fortnite.
Yeah, like Fortnite, right? So you have like all these different IPs. So yeah, then you can build decks where it's like, okay, we're gonna build Doctor Who, and you guys build your Jurassic Park commanders, and then we'll fight
Yeah.
each other.
And it's just fun. I don't know. I just think it's fun in general. And like, I'm obviously biased on this because I love Final Fantasy.
Right.
My first tattoo is actually Ifrit, which is a summon from one of the Final Fantasy games.
Okay. Was it in one of the cards?
I don't. It wasn't one of the ones we talked about. I don't know if they're. So there is an Ifrit card, but it's from Final Fantasy 16, which I haven't played yet.
Oh, okay.
But Ifrit's just like, he's also a pretty recurring character.
Nice.
I have the one from Final Fantasy X. He's pretty cool.
Sweet, man. Well, like you said, I think there's a ton of cards that are left to, explore for players, and I think we hit on some really cool ones.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, dude. So appreciate you jumping in and helping me out with the old Final Fantasy episode here, bro.
Yeah, no worries. I was having fun looking at all of them.
Yeah, man.
I'm probably going to be spending more money than I should on this set.
I think it'll be, if you're a collector, it's worth it to you. Who knows? The only time that these cards are not worth something is when the apocalypse happens and you have to use them as kindling for your fire.
Well, then they're worth heat, I guess.
Right. Then they're worth your life-giving force of fire. But yeah, appreciate it, man. I think that's a good wrap up to it. Is the apocalyptic use of magic cards?
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
All right, bro. Thanks for coming on. This is Bad Goyfs. This is Sammy the Bull here with my editor, who's in college right now, Drake, the Racked Out Gamer. And this is Final Fantasy set and what we think of it. So let us know down in the comments below what you think about it, or some cool cards that you think are going to be cool and synergistic in new decks, or maybe something that'll break the game, kind of like we talked about. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. That's all I got. Y'all have a great time with Final Fantasy set. We'll see y'all at a MagicCon, and take it easy. This is Bad Goyfs signing off. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to support us directly, go to patreon.com/badgoyfs. Also, follow us on all social media, links in the description below. And remember, you're all my Goyfs, and I love you. Bye-bye.